7th graders, we are working on more on expressions, equations, and inequalities. Objective 1, we're going to look at some examples here. An electric company charges a certain rate per kilowatt hour of electricity used and an administrative fee of $3.50. The company charged Zhao $63.25 for using 800 kilowatts of electricity. Zhao uses the equation 63.25 equals 800R plus 350 to represent the situation. What does the variable R represent in the situation? Okay, so it's multiple choice. It says the number of kilowatt hours he used. Is that what R represents? Well, they told us how many kilowatt hours he used, 800. So R wouldn't be 800, or it wouldn't be the kilowatt hours because we already know that's 800. The charge per kilowatt hour, they did not tell us that. They told us an administrative fee of $3.50, but they didn't tell us what it was per hour. The amount of the total charge that depends on the number of kilowatt hours used. Well, the total charge they told us was $63.25. So R would not be the total because they gave that to us. So R must be the charge per kilowatt hour because that's the only thing we don't know yet. And if you look, it says an electric company charges a certain rate per kilowatt hour, which they didn't tell us what that is. And we would take the total number of kilowatts, which is 800, times what it costs per kilowatt to get our total. So we would do 800 times that amount. So 800R does make sense. R is the charge per kilowatt hour. Okay, so a lot of these problems you just have to read through and try and make logical sense out of what's happening, what makes sense. All right, Gabriella is building a brick wall. Each row of bricks is 6.5 centimeters tall, except that the top row is 1 centimeter shorter because it has no mortar. She wants the wall to be 259 centimeters tall. Okay, write an equation that can be used to determine R, the number of rows she needs in her wall. Okay, she wants the total to be 259, so that's what our equation will equal. It's going to equal 259. Now each row is going to be 6.5 centimeters tall, except for one row. That's only going to be 5.5, 1 centimeter shorter. Okay, so R is the number of rows. So we would take all of our rows, R, and each one is 6.5. So we would take the number of rows times 6.5 to get the total height of our wall. But then remember that one row is 1 centimeter shorter. So after we have our total height of our wall, we're actually going to subtract 1 centimeter for that last row that's a little bit shorter. So this would be our equation. We take the total height, number of rows, times 6.5, take 1 centimeter off, and it's got to equal 259. So that would be B. Right there. All right, let's take a look at this one yet. It says match each equation to the situation it represents. An adult and 5 children rent skates. It costs $4 per adult for skates and a total of $16. Okay, so we have a total of 16. So that's what our equation is going to equal. We have an adult, so that would be one adult, and we know it costs $4 per adult. So that's going to be $4, and then 5 children rent skates. Well, they don't tell us what it costs for the children, so that would be an unknown. That would be a variable. So we have the cost for the adult plus the cost, we'll just use C, they use X. Let's use X then, since they use X. The cost for each children, we're going to take each child, we're going to take that times 5. So the cost for 5 children plus the $4 for the adult needs to equal 16. So that would be the equation that goes with this problem. Looks like that would be the second one right there. So we move it up to the top. Okay, the second one, it costs Mikhail $4 to make a bike bag, and he sells each for $5. He has made a profit of $16 so far. Okay, so it costs him $4 to make the bag. He sells them for $5. All right, so his total profit, it looks like, is $16. So that's going to equal 16. It costs him $4 to make. He sells them for $5. So if he sells them for $5, you subtract what he makes, or what it costs him to make them, is going to tell you how much money he makes on each bag. $5 he sells them for, costs $4 to make. If you subtract that, that's going to be how much profit he makes on each bag. And then they didn't tell us how many bags he has sold, so that would be our unknown, and we could use X for that. So he's actually making $1 on each bag. So 1 times however many bags he's made is equaling a profit of 16. And then if you would solve for X, you would know that he made 16 bags so far. Okay, so the second one is already lined up there. Looks like those go together. Let's look at the third problem. It was 16 degrees Celsius. It began falling 4 degrees Celsius per hour until it reached 5 degrees. So our total in the end is 5. So that's what it's going to equal. Hopefully you can see when it says until it reached 5, like that's the ending point. So that's what our equation is going to equal. That's the total. Okay, so it started out at 16, and then it was falling 4 per hour. Now we don't know how many hours the temperature fell, so that would be our unknown. Okay, but we do know that each hour, however many hours it was falling, it was 4 degrees each hour. So we take that unknown times 4. If it was 2 hours, it would have fallen 8 degrees. If it was 3 hours, it would have fallen 12 degrees. We take the number of hours times how many degrees it's falling each hour. So then we're subtracting what it's falling from where it began, okay? So this would be kind of like one of those key words. Falling would imply less, right? It would imply subtraction. It's going down. So that's how we know we have to subtract. We start at 16, we subtract how much it's going down each hour. For the total hours equals 5. So 16 minus 4x equals 5 would be the equation that goes with that last problem. Okay, so again, on this link, what we're doing is we're reading the problems, we're looking for keywords, we're trying to find the total, we're trying to find the unknown, trying to set up our equation to see how to solve it. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the second link here. Tim answered all the questions on his math test but got 10 answers wrong. He received 4 points every correct answer. There was no penalty for wrong answers. His score was 76. Okay, so that's our final right there. His score was 76. That's going to be our total. That's going to be what it equals in the end. Okay, he got 10 answers wrong. We don't know how many questions there were total. And if we read down here, it says the total number of questions, Q. So that's our unknown, is the total number of questions. But we know he got 10 wrong. He gets 4 points for every correct answer. Okay, so if we know the total number of questions is Q, and he got 10 wrong, if you get 10 wrong, you subtract that from the total to figure out how many you got correct. So we could do the total number of questions Q minus 10. This is now how many questions he got correct. If you take the total minus the number wrong, it gives you the number correct. He gets 4 points for every correct answer. So for every, that implies multiplication. You're going to take each correct problem times 4 to figure out how many points that is. So we need to take all of this times 4. So in front of those parentheses, we put a 4. And there's our equation. We take the number of correct questions times 4 is going to equal our total of 76. So let's plug in that equation. All right, now we actually need to solve that equation in order to figure out how many questions there were. Okay, you have two choices. You can distribute or you can divide both sides by 4. I think let's distribute. We get 4q minus 40 equals 76. Now we want to get q by itself. We're going to get rid of this 40 first by doing the opposite of negative 40 is adding 40. What you do to one side, do it to the other side. So 4q equals 116. And then we're going to divide by 4. Divide by 4. Q equals 29. So how many questions were there? There were 29 questions on his test. Oh. Ooh. I put in the wrong number right there. That's supposed to be 10. All right, now we got it correct. All right, one more. Carl is boarding a plane. He has 2 checked bags of equal weight and a backpack that weighs 4 kilograms. The total weight is 35 kilograms. Okay, so we know it equals 35. He has 2 checked bags of equal weight and a backpack that weighs 4. Okay, so we know the backpack, there's only one of them. It's 4 kilograms. So that's part of what makes up our total of 35. Then it has 2 checked bags of equal weight. We don't know what the weight of each bag of those 2 checked bags are. That's the unknown. The weight, they tell us down here, use W. Okay, so we have 2 of those bags. We don't know what they weigh, but whatever they weigh is W. Take that times 2 to get the total weight of the 2 bags. You add that to the 4 kilogram backpack. That's going to give you your total of 35. So that's our equation. 2W plus 4 equals 35. Make sure I put it in correct this time. All right, now we want to solve for W, get W by itself. So we have to get rid of this 4 first. We do the opposite. We subtract 4. What you do to one side, you do to the other side. So 2W equals 31. Divide by 2, because this is multiplication. Opposite of multiplying is dividing. That goes away. Divide by 2. W equals 15.5. So that means each of those checked bags is 15.5 kilograms. All right, good. So again, we're really looking for keywords. We're trying to find the total. We're trying to find the unknown, the variable, any other keywords that tell us how to set up our equation, and then solve for the variable. All right, that's all. Good luck on your practice.